Her jealous stepmother shaved her bald, but the Alpha King chose her as his mate. The sun rose over the kingdom of Aloria, but its light seemed weak and cold in the grand halls of the Silvershade mansion. Inside, Alara moved quietly, her hands brushing against the polished walls, trying not to draw attention. The mansion, with its tall windows and gilded mirrors, always felt empty and cold to her, a place of grandeur without warmth. Ever since her father's death, her stepmother, Lady Morgana, had ruled with an iron hand, leaving no space for kindness or laughter. Alara's life had been one of careful obedience, hidden dreams, and small joys stolen in silence. She loved to wander in the gardens, speak with the birds, and imagine herself in a world where she could be free. But her stepmother, with her sharp eyes and cruel smile, seemed determined to crush every spark of joy. Morgana had always envied Alara, not for her talents or her intelligence, but for her beauty, her gentle heart, and the way others admired her. It was the day of the spring festival, a celebration of light and life in the kingdom. The streets of Aloria were alive with music, dancers, and merchants selling bright silks and sweet cakes. Alara's heart ached as she watched from behind the mansion gates. She longed to join the laughter, to feel the warmth of the sun on her skin, but she dared not. She knew Morgana would not allow it. "You will stay here, of course," Morgana's voice cut through the morning air like ice. Her stepmother's eyes were sharp, glinting with a cruel plan. "The festival is no place for someone like you, Alara." Alara lowered her gaze, feeling the familiar sting of humiliation. "Yes, stepmother," she whispered. But Morgana's cruelty was not satisfied with mere exclusion. She had been plotting for weeks, driven by jealousy that twisted her heart like a dark vine. Today she would humiliate Alara in front of the entire kingdom. As the festival began, Morgana led Alara into the great hall, where guests had gathered for the morning banquet. Nobles in fine silks whispered among themselves, their eyes falling on the young girl who had once been admired for her beauty. Morgana stepped forward, her voice loud and cold. "Look upon her," Morgana announced. "The girl who thought herself worthy of admiration is no more." Before Alara could understand, Morgana's servant seized her, pulling her to the center of the hall. Panic rose in Alara's chest. She struggled, but the servants were strong, their faces expressionless. "No! Please!" Alara cried, her voice trembling. "You cannot do this." Morgana's smile widened, cruel and triumphant. "Oh, but I can," she said.
"And I will. Let this be a lesson to those who dare to defy me."
The servants produced a sharp blade, and with a swift, terrifying motion, Alara's hair fell to the marble floor. The hall went silent. Gasps and whispers filled the air. Children clutched their parents' hands. The nobles looked away, unsure where to place their sympathy. Alara touched her scalp, the shock of cold metal still echoing in her mind. She felt exposed, small, and powerless. Tears blurred her vision as she realized the depth of her stepmother's hatred. Her reflection in the gilded mirrors revealed a girl she barely recognized. A girl stripped of her hair, her dignity, her beauty as Morgana had defined it. Morgana laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. "You are no longer the jewel of this house. You are nothing, and everyone shall see it." Alara stumbled back, humiliated, her heart pounding with fear and despair. But even in that moment, a small flame of defiance ignited within her. She refused to bow completely to Morgana's cruelty. Quietly, she slipped away from the hall, unnoticed in the chaos. She ran through the gardens, the wind whipping around her bald head, tears streaming down her cheeks. The world seemed different now, harsher, darker, but also strangely open. No longer bound by the expectations of beauty and submission, she felt a whisper of something powerful, something ancient calling her name. Hours passed as Alara wandered deeper into the forest at the edge of the kingdom. The trees grew taller, their shadows stretching like protective arms. Here, the air was thick with magic, a subtle pulse that seemed to guide her steps. She felt drawn to a small clearing where sunlight broke through the canopy, illuminating an ancient stone altar covered in moss. Kneeling before it, Alara touched the weathered surface, feeling a warmth seep into her fingers. A voice, soft and distant, seemed to echo in her mind. The fallen shall rise. The broken shall shine. The chosen shall not be hidden forever. Alara's heart skipped. Was this real, or just the echo of her desperate hope? She did not know. But something deep inside her stirred, a sense of destiny, a promise that her life was not over, that this humiliation was only the beginning of something greater. Night fell, and the forest grew colder, but Alara could not rest. Shadows shifted around her, and she felt eyes upon her. Then, through the darkness, she saw a figure emerging. He was tall, broad, and commanding. His presence made the trees seem smaller, the stars dimmer. His eyes glowed faintly in the moonlight, a mix of storm and fire, and yet there was something sad, almost human in them. "I have been looking for you," the stranger said, his voice deep and resonant. "Do not be afraid." Alara's instinct told her to run, to hide, but something about him held her in place. She felt an inexplicable pull, a mixture of fear and trust. Who are you?" she asked, her voice small.
"I am Kale," he replied, "king of the northern lands, alpha of the clans."
"And you are not lost. You are mine." Alara staggered back, disbelief mixing with awe. "Mine? I am nothing now." "My stepmother, she ruined me." Kale's expression softened, though his eyes remained fierce. "Your stepmother cannot ruin what is destined. She cannot break what is chosen. I see you as you truly are, Alara, strong, brave, and untouched by her darkness. You are not defined by what she took from you." For the first time, Alara felt a spark of hope, a flicker of warmth in her heart. Yet fear still clutched her chest. How could she trust someone so powerful? Someone who seemed as impossible as the stories of the Alpha Kings whispered in the villages. Before she could speak, a howl split the night, sharp and full of warning. Kale's eyes narrowed. "They know you are here. Morgana's agents will come for you, even now." Elara's heart raced. "Then what do I do?"
"You survive," Kale said simply.
"And you learn to wield the power within you. It has awakened, even if you do not yet understand it. You are more than a victim, Alara. You are chosen." As the wind carried the distant footsteps of Morgana's pursuers, Kale extended his hand. Hesitant, trembling, but driven by trust and desperation, Alara took it. In that moment, a silent promise passed between them. One of protection, of courage, of destiny yet to be fulfilled. Together they vanished into the dark forest, leaving behind the mansion, the festival, and the cruelty of a stepmother's envy. But the memory of humiliation lingered, like a shadow at the edge of her mind, reminding her that the path ahead would be filled with trials, danger, and discovery. As the first stars of night shimmered above, Alara felt the strange pulse of magic in her veins, the whisper of prophecy guiding her steps. And somewhere deep within she knew her life would never be the same again. Somewhere beyond the darkness the Alpha King watched, waiting, and the kingdom held its breath, unaware that the girl with the bald head, the girl humiliated and betrayed, was about to step into a destiny that would shake the very foundations of power, love, and magic. And in the shadows of the forest a voice seemed to whisper through the leaves, "The chosen shall rise, and the world shall never see them coming." The night was thick with mist as Kale guided Alara through the forest. Shadows danced across the ancient trees, and the air smelled of earth and magic. Every rustle made Alara's heart leap, yet beneath her fear was a quiet awe. She had never been so far from the safety of the mansion, or from the world she had known. Kale's presence was commanding, almost frightening. His footsteps were silent, yet they seemed to shake the ground. His eyes, glowing faintly in the dark, never left her, watching, protecting, assessing. And yet, There was a gentleness in his touch when he steadied her hand or brushed a branch from her path. You are different from anyone I have ever met," Cale said quietly as they paused beside a small stream. Moonlight shimmered across the water, and Alara's reflection stared back at her. A bald girl, but not broken. "You are brave, even in the face of fear. Most would have run and hidden forever."
Elara looked down embarrassed.
I am not brave, she whispered. I am afraid all the time. Afraid of her, my stepmother.
Afraid of everything. Cale studied her for a long moment, his stormy eyes softening. "Courage is not the absence of fear," he said, his voice low and steady. "It is acting in spite of it. You have already shown courage simply by surviving what she did to you. That is why I found you. That is why you are chosen."
"Chosen," Elara echoed, a shiver running down her spine.
Chosen for what? Cale's gaze grew distant, as if seeing something far beyond the forest. "To be my mate, to stand beside me, not as a servant or a shadow, but as a partner. Your fate is intertwined with mine, whether you accept it now or later." Elara's heart pounded. The word mate felt strange and heavy, full of promises and power she did not yet understand. She wanted to run, to deny him, to hide from a destiny she had never asked for. But even as fear rose, a spark of hope flickered. Perhaps she could be more than a victim of Morgana's cruelty. Perhaps she could rise. Before Elara could respond, the wind shifted, carrying a distant howl. Cale's eyes sharpened instantly and his body tensed like a coiled spring. "They are coming," he said, voice low but commanding. "Morgana's agents have not given up. They will try to capture you, even now." Elara's stomach dropped. "But I am not strong. I cannot fight them." Cale's hand found hers, firm and steady. "You are stronger than you know, and I will not let them take you. Not while I breathe." They moved swiftly through the forest, shadows clinging to them like living things. Elara stumbled often, but Cale's grip never wavered. The tension was electric, danger and trust intertwined in every step. After what felt like hours, they reached the edge of a cliff overlooking a storm-tossed sea. Waves crashed against the rocks below, sending up white spray. Cale led Elara to the top, where a narrow path wound along the cliffs to his fortress, perched like a sentinel against the night sky. "It is beautiful," Elara murmured, gazing at the dark, majestic fortress. Its towers seemed alive and torches flickered in the windows like eyes watching the world. Cale nodded, but his expression was guarded. "It is not meant to be beautiful for everyone. Only those strong enough to survive its darkness can enter." Elara swallowed hard. She was not sure she belonged here, in this world of kings and power, but something inside her told her that she was meant to be part of it. Cale led her inside. The halls were vast, with ceilings high enough to vanish into shadow. Statues of warriors and ancestors lined the walls, their eyes seeming to follow every movement. Despite the grandeur, there was a coldness to the place, a reminder that power could be lonely and heavy. "You will stay here in safety," Cale said, his voice softer now. "Tomorrow, you will begin to understand what it means to be chosen. Tonight, rest."
Elara tried to nod, but her body trembled from exhaustion and fear.
Cale gestured toward a room with a high carved bed and windows that looked out over the cliffs. "You will not be alone. I will be near, always." She wanted to ask why he was helping her, why he cared, but the word stuck in her throat. Instead, she allowed herself to collapse onto the bed, feeling the tension of the past day finally begin to leave her body. Sleep came in fits, broken by nightmares of Morgana's cruel laughter and the sharp blade that had cut her hair. Yet even in dreams, Cale's voice echoed strong and protective. "You are chosen. You are not lost." Morning brought a pale light over the fortress. Elara awoke to find Cale standing at the window, watching the cliffs and the sea. His expression was unreadable, and yet there was something in the way he carried himself, a mixture of strength, sorrow, and expectation, that made her heart ache. "You must learn quickly," he said without turning. "The world is not kind. and Morgana will not stop. She will send more agents, more tricks, more lies. You cannot face her unprepared. Elara struggled to rise.
I do not even know what I am meant to do.
Cale turned to face her. His eyes softened, but there was still the intensity of a storm beneath them. You are meant to survive. You are meant to rise, and you are meant to stand beside me as my mate, Elara. That is your destiny. The word mate hung in the air like a spell. Elara felt both frightened and strangely comforted. For the first time, someone saw her for more than her hair, her beauty, or her stepmother's cruelty. Cale saw her heart, her courage, and the power she did not yet understand. Days passed, and Cale began to teach her, not with words alone, but with lessons in awareness, strategy, and subtle magic that pulsed in the land. The fortress itself seemed alive, reacting to their movements. Doors would lock themselves, corridors would shift, and shadows would gather at their command. Elara discovered that her mind and heart were sharper than she realized. She could sense danger before it came, anticipate movements, and even influence the faint currents of magic in the air. One evening, Cale took her to the highest tower. The wind whipped around them, and the kingdom lay spread below like a living map. "Do you feel it?" Cale asked, his hand brushing against hers. "The pulse of the world?" "The magic that flows through it. It responds to those who are chosen." Elara closed her eyes, reaching out with her senses. She could feel it, a subtle hum, a warmth beneath her skin, as if the land itself recognized her. "I feel it," she whispered. It is strange, powerful.
I do not understand it. You will, Cale said. And soon you will need it. Morgana will not wait forever.
She will come for you when you least expect it, but when she does, you will be ready. Elara's stomach twisted. The thought of facing her stepmother again filled her with fear, but Cale's presence was steady, and slowly, a part of her courage returned. "Why me?" she asked suddenly. "Why did you choose me? I am nothing compared to you. I am weak." Cale's eyes softened and he stepped closer. "You are not weak. You are unbroken, even after everything she did to you. Most would have lost themselves in despair, but you survived. That is strength. That is courage. That is why I chose you, because no one else could face the darkness and still shine." Elara felt tears prick at her eyes. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not her father, not her friends, not even the kingdom she had once dreamed of joining. She wanted to believe him, but the fear in her heart was stubborn. Before she could respond, a shadow fell across the tower. A sharp, cold laugh echoed in the wind. "Elara!" the voice hissed. "You cannot hide forever." Elara's heart leapt. Morgana's voice. The shadow of her stepmother had found them. Cale's expression darkened, and his hand tightened around hers. "She has agents everywhere. We must move. Now." Together, they leapt from the tower into the night, landing safely on the hidden paths that wound along the cliffs. Elara felt a thrill of fear and exhilaration. The world she had known, the world of safety and obedience, was gone. Only danger, power, and destiny remained. As they ran, Cale's voice was a constant anchor. "Do not look back. Focus on the present. Focus on your strength. You are mine, Elara, and no darkness can take you while I stand beside you." Elara's chest swelled with a mixture of fear, hope, and an unspoken longing. She did not fully understand what it meant to be chosen by an Alpha King, but she knew one thing for certain. Her life had changed forever. And for the first time, she was no longer afraid of facing the darkness. The abandoned temple stood on a cliff above the storm-tossed sea, its broken columns reaching toward the sky like the fingers of forgotten gods. Rain pelted the stone roof, drumming a relentless rhythm, and the wind howled through the shattered windows. Inside, Kale and Alara had found temporary shelter, but comfort was fleeting. Every shadow seemed alive, every gust of wind a whisper of danger. Alara shivered, wrapping herself in the cloak Kale had thrown over her shoulders. She had never been trained in survival, much less in the ways of power and battle. Yet Kale's faith in her, his unshakable certainty that she was chosen, had ignited a small flame of courage deep inside her. "You must learn," Kale said, pacing the stone floor. His voice echoed off the walls, deep and commanding. "The world does not wait for the weak. Your stepmother will not stop. Morgana's magic is cruel, but you are not powerless." Ilara's hands trembled as she touched the carved altar at the center of the temple. The stone was warm, as if responding to her presence. She felt a strange pulse, a rhythm beneath her skin, and she realized that Kale had been right. Something within her had awakened. I feel something," she whispered. "It's like the temple is alive, and it's calling me." Kale nodded, his stormy eyes softening. "That is your gift. The world has chosen you, and you are beginning to see it. Your stepmother sought to humiliate you, to break you, but she only awakened what was always inside. Your bald head. It is not a curse. It is a mark of prophecy." Elara blinked, confused and overwhelmed. "A mark of prophecy?" Kale stepped closer, placing a hand gently on her shoulder.
Yes.
"It signifies strength, resilience, and the ability to face darkness. Morgana's cruelty cannot take it from you. The power within you responds to courage and compassion, not fear. You are more than a victim, Elara. You are a force." Her heart pounded. For years, she had hidden in silence, letting the world define her worth by her beauty and her obedience. Now, she felt something shift. A quiet power began to hum within her, a promise that she could rise, that she could fight, that she could become more than anyone, including Morgana, had ever imagined. Kale led her outside into the rain, the storm wrapping around them like a living cloak. "Tonight," he said, "you will face your first trial. I will guide you, but you must trust yourself. You must trust your strength." Elara nodded, fear and anticipation twisting inside her. She had no idea what awaited her, but she knew that running would solve nothing. This was the path she had chosen, or that destiny had chosen for her. In the darkness beyond the temple, shapes moved. Figures cloaked in black, agents of Morgana, had tracked them through the forest. They emerged silently, their eyes glinting with cruel intent. One stepped forward holding a wand of dark wood, etched with symbols of twisted magic. "Elara Silvershade," a cold voice hissed. "You belong to Morgana, not to him. Surrender and perhaps your suffering will be short." Elara's pulse quickened. Her instincts screamed at her to run, but Kale's hand gripped hers, grounding her. "Do not be afraid," he said. "You have power. You can fight. Trust yourself." The first agent raised the wand, sending a bolt of dark energy toward them. Elara ducked instinctively and something unexpected happened. The bolt stopped mid-air, suspended as if the air itself had hardened. Then, slowly, it dissolved into mist. Elara gasped. I did that?" Kyle's eyes widened, a rare expression of approval breaking across his stormy features. "Yes, you reacted instinctively. That is the power within you. It responds to fear and courage, but only when you are true to yourself." The agents attacked again, moving faster this time. Elara's heart pounded, but she focused, reaching out with the pulse of magic that flowed through her. A wave of light erupted from her hands, knocking the attackers back. The storm seemed to answer her, wind and rain swirling in harmony with her power. Kale fought beside her, his strength unmatched, but he did not overshadow her. Instead, he guided, instructed, and protected, letting her grow into her role as a force to be reckoned with. Minutes felt like hours, but finally the agents retreated, slipping into the darkness, defeated but not destroyed. Ilara sank to the ground, breathless and soaked, trembling with a mixture of fear, exhilaration, and newfound confidence. Kale knelt beside her, brushing a strand of damp hair, what little remained, back from her face. "You are stronger than you know," he said softly. "And this is only the beginning. Morgana will not give up, but neither will you."
Alara's mind raced. She had never imagined that she could fight, that she could wield such power.
And yet, as exhausted as she was, a sense of pride and purpose filled her. For the first time, she saw herself as more than a victim. She saw herself as someone capable of shaping her own destiny. "Kale," she began, her voice tentative, "why do you trust me so completely? You barely know me, and yet—" Kale's gaze held hers, fierce and unwavering.
"Because I see who you truly are," he said. "I see what Morgana cannot."
"I see strength, courage, and heart. That is why I chose you, not because of what you look like, but because of who you are." Alara's chest tightened. For years she had been told she was nothing, ugly, powerless. Now, someone believed in her completely. The weight of his faith settled on her like a cloak, heavy but protective, and she felt a strange warmth spread through her. Days turned into weeks as Kale trained her. The temple became their arena, their sanctuary, and their classroom. Elara learned to harness the magic within her, to sense danger before it arrived, to bend wind and shadow to her will. She discovered that her bald head was more than a mark. It was a channel, a conduit through which her power flowed. Every act of courage strengthened it. Every moment of self-belief amplified her abilities. Yet the training was not only physical or magical. Kale challenged her mind, her heart, and her understanding of trust and power. He asked her to make choices that were difficult, to face fears she had never acknowledged, to confront the pain Morgana had inflicted. And through it all a bond grew between them, not of mere attraction, but of shared trials, respect, and an unspoken promise of loyalty. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of crimson and gold, Kale brought her to a high balcony overlooking the sea. The wind whipped around them, carrying the scent of salt and rain. "Look at the world," he said, his hand brushing hers. "It is vast, beautiful, and dangerous, and it belongs to no one until someone claims it. You can claim it, Elara, not for power, but for justice, for life, for the people who cannot protect themselves. That is why you are chosen." Elara stared at the horizon, the waves crashing against the cliffs below. For the first time, she felt a sense of purpose, a fire igniting within her. She was not just surviving. She was preparing to rise, to face Morgana, and to embrace a destiny that had been waiting for her all along. But even as hope burned in her chest, a shadow loomed. From the darkness of the forest below, a figure watched. Morgana's laughter, cold and cruel, echoed faintly on the wind. She would not surrender easily. She would come for Elara again, stronger, more cunning, and more determined than ever. Kale sensed it too. He tightened his grip on her hand, storm and fury flashing in his eyes. "She will return," he said, "and when she does, you must be ready. You are no longer the girl she tried to break. You are my mate. You are the chosen, and together we are unstoppable." Elara nodded, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. She could not yet imagine all the battles ahead, all the trials she would face, but for the first time, she believed in herself, and in the man who had chosen her, not for what she appeared to be, but for what she had always been inside. As night fell, the temple seemed to hum with power, the pulse of magic flowing through every stone and shadow. Elara could feel it, a rhythm that matched her heartbeat. She knew Morgana's threat was far from over, but she also knew that she was no longer alone, and for the first time she allowed herself to hope, not just for survival, but for victory, for love, and for a destiny she had never dared to dream. And somewhere beyond the darkness, Kale's voice carried a promise against the storm. "You are mine, Elara. And together, we will face the darkness." The storm had passed, leaving the cliffs and forests drenched and shining under a pale, trembling moon. Elara stood at the edge of the temple balcony, rain still dripping from her cloak, her heart hammering in her chest. She could feel the pulse of magic thrumming through the stones beneath her feet, through her veins, through the mark on her bald head. Tonight would decide everything. Ayal's hand rested lightly on her shoulder, firm and grounding. His stormy eyes searched hers, seeing the fear she tried to hide, the courage she had begun to claim.
Are you ready? He asked quietly. Tonight you face her.
Tonight, you decide the fate of yourself, of the kingdom, and of us. Elara swallowed hard. The memory of Morgana's cruel laughter, the cold gleam of her blade, the humiliation of the festival, it all surged through her. But beneath the fear was something stronger. Determination, the knowledge that she was no longer powerless, that she had been chosen for this very moment. I am ready, Elara said, her voice trembling but firm. Kael nodded. Together they descended the cliffside path toward the heart of the kingdom, where Morgana had gathered her dark forces. The city lay quiet beneath them, unaware that the final confrontation between two women, one fueled by cruelty, the other by courage, was about to unfold. As they approached the gates of the city, shadows moved. Morgana's agents, though fewer in number after Alara's earlier victories, were ready to strike. But this time Elara did not flinch. She extended her hands, and the magic within her surged outward, forming a shield of light and wind. The agents froze, unable to advance, their dark energy dissipating against the force of her newfound power. Kael moved beside her, his presence both protective and commanding. Together they walked through the streets, their combined power illuminating the night. Citizens peeked from windows, whispers spreading through the silent city. The girl with the bald head, the one humiliated, the one abandoned, was coming, and she was not alone. Finally they reached the palace gates, where Morgana waited. Her eyes were wide with fury, her lips twisted in a cruel smile. She had anticipated this moment, had prepared dark wards, traps, and curses, but she had not counted on Elara's awakening strength. "Foolish girl," Morgana spat, her voice echoing through the empty streets. "Do you really think you can defeat me? After all I have done to you?" Elara stepped forward, the pulse of magic glowing through her skin, illuminating her bald head like a crown of light. "You underestimated me," she said, voice steady, carrying the weight of all the pain, courage, and power she had gathered. "I am not the same girl you tried to break. I am stronger. I am chosen. And tonight, you will see that cruelty cannot win." Morgana's eyes blazed and she lifted her wand, dark energy crackling around her fingers. The air grew heavy, the sky darkened, and a chilling wind swept through the streets. Kael stepped beside Elara, his own power radiating like a storm. "You will not harm her," he said, voice low and deadly. "I will not allow it." Morgana laughed, a sound that cut through the night like ice. "And what can the mighty Alpha King do? She is mine to destroy."
Elara felt fear, but she pushed it aside.
She focused on the pulse inside her, the rhythm that had guided her through the temple, through the forest, through every trial. Her magic flowed outward, connecting with Kael's, forming a bond that was both shield and weapon. The first clash was swift. Morgana sent bolts of dark energy, but Alara's light met them, shattering the shadows before they could reach her. She advanced, her hands glowing, her every movement precise and confident. Each strike she deflected, each spell she countered, strengthened her, proving that she was no longer a victim, no longer the powerless girl who had cried in the hall of the festival. Morgana's face twisted in rage. She tried to retreat, to summon a greater force, but Elara anticipated her moves, her mind sharp and clear. The temple, the cliffs, the forests, they had all trained her for this. She was not fighting alone. Kael's presence, his guidance, and his unwavering trust flowed through her like a river of strength. "You cannot defeat me," Morgana screamed, her voice cracking with fury and desperation. "I already have," Elara said, her voice echoing like a bell of power.
Not because I am stronger than you, but because I am no longer afraid.
Fear gives you power over others. Courage gives you power over yourself.
And I choose courage.
With a surge of energy, Elara channeled the full magic within her. Light erupted from her bald head, forming a radiant crown that seemed to draw power from the very land. Morgana's dark spells shattered against it, leaving her exposed and trembling. Kale stepped forward, placing a hand on Elara's shoulder. Together they combined their power in a final strike, a wave of light and wind that swept through the palace gates, dissolving Morgana's forces and breaking her dark enchantments. Morgana fell to her knees, defeated not by cruelty or violence but by the truth of Elara's courage and the bond she shared with Kale. Silence fell over the streets. The storm had passed. The clouds parted, revealing a pale moon that bathed the kingdom in silver light. Citizens emerged from their homes, witnessing a girl who had once been humiliated, now standing victorious, radiant with power and confidence. Morgana's face, once twisted with pride and cruelty, softened into something like sorrow. She looked at Elara and Kael, and for the first time, she seemed to understand that her hatred could not touch the strength that comes from love, courage, and purpose. "You have won," Morgana whispered, her voice trembling. "Perhaps I was wrong." Elara, breathing heavily, stepped forward. She did not speak words of revenge. Instead, she offered mercy, the kind of mercy that only someone who had suffered and survived could give. "It is over," she said. "You no longer have power over me. Learn from this. Change, if you can." Morgana bowed her head, a gesture of submission, and slowly she retreated into the shadows, leaving the kingdom free from her cruelty. Kyle turned to Elara, his stormy eyes filled with pride and something deeper. Love, admiration, and relief. "You have done it," he said softly. "You faced the darkness, and you did not falter. You are my mate, not because you are chosen, but because you have chosen yourself." Elara felt tears prick at her eyes. She had once been humiliated, powerless, and alone. Now, she stood as a queen of her own fate, a partner to the Alpha King, radiant not for her beauty, but for her courage, wisdom, and heart. The citizens began to gather, their eyes wide with awe. They had witnessed something extraordinary. A girl who had been broken, stripped of dignity, and cast aside had risen stronger than anyone could imagine. Whispers spread through the streets. "She is the chosen. She is the true queen. She is the Alpha King's mate." Elara looked at Kale, her heart full. He extended his hand and she took it, feeling the pulse of magic and life flowing between them. Together they walked to the balcony overlooking the kingdom, their silhouettes framed by the rising sun that broke through the lingering clouds. The first rays of light touched the city, painting it in gold and silver. Elara lifted her face to the sky, feeling the warmth, the promise, and the freedom that had once seemed impossible. Kale's voice broke the silence, gentle and commanding. "This is your kingdom as much as mine. You have earned it, Elara. And together we will rule, not with fear, but with strength, compassion, and courage." Elara smiled, feeling the weight of the past lift from her shoulders. The bald head that had once been a mark of humiliation was now a symbol of destiny, a crown of resilience and power. She no longer feared the world, nor the darkness that lurked within it. She had faced it, and she had risen. "I am ready," she said, her voice steady and strong. "Ready to rule, to protect, and to stand beside you." Kale pulled her close, the wind swirling around them, carrying the scent of the sea and the storm that had passed. "You are more than I ever dreamed," he said, "and together, nothing can stand against us." The kingdom below stirred to life, the people seeing not just a king and his mate, but the promise of a new era. An era where courage triumphed over cruelty, where the weak could rise, and where love and destiny intertwined to create something eternal. Elara and Kael stood together, silhouetted against the morning sky, their bond unbreakable, their future shining bright. And though the shadows of the past would always linger, They now had the power to shape their own world, to protect it, and to rule it with wisdom, strength, and heart. The girl who had once been humiliated, the girl who had lost everything, now stood as a queen, a chosen mate, and a force that could not be broken. And in that moment the kingdom of Aloria knew that its true light had arrived.